First thing I like to do before I start any oil change is I'm always going to take the oil cap off, confirm the type of grade of oil that I need from the manufacturer. In this case, it is 0W20. And I take this off because it also, I feel, helps with the draining. There's no suction caused. Look for my location of my dipstick if I don't know where it is, and then I will raise this up and start draining. The oil dipstick is right here on the passenger side, front of the engine. I'll just pull that out like that, and I can see the location. So to access the oil plug, drain plug, is this little shield right here, 12mm socket. So the drain plug on this is 14mm socket or wrench. I'm going to use a socket. I got my catch drain pan close. Now I'm going to position that because it's straight down. I like to make sure the gasket comes with the drain plug. Sometimes it sticks to the pan, then I got to pop it off. While this is draining on this particular vehicle, I can take care of that front shield to get access to that oil filter housing. So hopefully we're going to be able to take down 6 bolts, and there are 2 types of sockets, a 12mm and a 10mm. So I'm going to take I'll take this side 12 down, then I'll go right to that 10 because of the plastic shield. I'm just going to go right to the other side and take down that 10mm socket side. Now I've got 3 more 12mm socket. Now I got 1 more, but I'm going to hold the shield. Let come down. Now there's hooks on Toyotas that hold that shield up in there. So in order to access the oil filter housing up here and not get anything all over my shield, I'm going to just take a bungee cord and then pry it as far forward as I can. Toyota has a double stage oil filter housing in this little aluminum cover with a 3/8 drive in it. If you pull this out, pop it off, it just, you spin that off. You're going to get a gasket with it, but it also comes with a drain. So it will take all the oil out, so hopefully it doesn't make as much of a mess. That's the point behind it. You'll see that rubber gasket up in there. You get a new one with the filter. Now I get the drain that comes with the filter. And it has a stage where it pushes and pops up in. Should snap in. If it doesn't, I just hold it there. There we go. All right, so now I've got this pretty much drained. Then I can now remove the housing. So I'll pop that drain clamp out, which is not always that easy. Let's see. There we go. Then you just throw that away. Now this filter housing for Toyota, it does have a special wrench that goes around it like this. It's got all that hexagons to it. And it is probably about 2 inches of thread, so it's going to feel like there's pressure behind it, because don't forget there is a gasket in there. It's freehand now. And you'll see the cartridge that you're going to remove and clean the housing. I'll tip it out. So here's the oil filter housing that you're going to clean and replace this O-ring right in here. We'll clean all the old oil out, make sure it's dry, and replace that O-ring. Comes with the filter. So before I clean, I'm just going to take the old gasket off, right? No need to waste that. Now I'm going to take a solvent spray, and I'm just going to try to clean that housing out. Watch your eyes. I just do it till you see it pretty much comes out clean. I'm going to give the outside a little quick skirt. And I'm just going to let that dry for a couple minutes. So this is the drain plug, and that's the drain plug gasket. I recommend changing them with every oil change. See how that fell apart? It gets compressed, torqued to the specs, and install a new one. This is like compressed paper cardboard. They're pretty firm. I like them better than the metal or aluminum or the hard plastic ones. So you just want to make sure that drain plug threads are good. There's no stretch or stripped. Then I'll put the new gasket on, and I'm ready to put it right back up in there. I'm going to wipe away that drip real quick. Install the plug. Like I said earlier, 14mm socket, and the torque on this is 30 foot-pounds. Millimeter socket, and torque is 30 foot-pounds. All right, so now I'm going to open up the O-ring package that comes with the filter. And like I said before, it has the smaller O-ring for where that aluminum cover is, and then the bigger one. We've already cleaned our filter housing. We've let it dry. So I'm going to put the bigger filter on first. O-ring on first. And you can see the notch. See that wide notch? That's where it's going to sit, right in there. Not below it, but in that notch right there. Now I'll take my new filter. And because it's a fiber filter like this, there's no aluminum housing. You can't prep this, so don't pour oil in there. And we're going to put a little fresh oil on this, and then we'll put it back up. So now I'm just going to dab some fresh oil, coat that O-ring so it doesn't go on dry. You don't want it to tear. You want it to go on smooth. And then I'm going to get a clean rag, or somewhat clean. I'm going to clean that housing that this sits up in. So now, you don't want to spray solvent up there, only because it could go right into the pan. I just use a clean rag. Try to get as much as that old oil out that I can. It's a good way to make sure there's no stripping of the plastic into that aluminum too. Just get to know it. I'll start it by hand. It goes on smooth, so that tells me I didn't cross-thread it. Now I can get my socket and extension. If I didn't mention, this socket is 24mm, if I forgot. Sorry. So we're just going to snug it because there is a torque spec to this. All right, it's bottomed out. Now I'm going to get my torque wrench. And the cool thing about this filter box is it actually gives you the torque specs on the side of it. And that is going to be tightened to 24 Newton meters. So now I'm going to remove my oil filter tool, the housing tool. I'm going to take that off. And I've got a new gasket, the new gasket for that housing. I'm going to take a rag real quick, wipe that too, best I can. Try to get any debris out. You don't want anything going on in there. I put some new fresh oil on my new O-ring. I'm going to sit it right up in there. It's kind of be oversized a little bit, so it wants you to kind of pop it in. Let's see if it stays. Perfect. It's not overlapped anywhere, so now I'm going to clean my little housing piece. Thread that on. just going to snug it and get my torque wrench. So if you look at the actual filter housing, stamped right on it from the manufacturer says, tighten the oil filter housing to 25 Newton meters. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to get my oil filter wrench back up there. Now that I put that silver cap on and it's snug, we're going to torque that also. But it's a completely different torque. And I'm not going to use that to torque that whole housing because, to me, that just is asking for trouble. I'd rather tighten it with the filter wrench. It's not much. Now we can take that cover off. Now I'm going to leave my 3/8 extension on my torque wrench, and that little aluminum cover is 12.5, give or take 2 Newton meters. So we'll bring the wrench right down to that, and we'll snug that up. Not much, but that's it. We're going to start putting our covers back on, make sure there's no residual oil anywhere. It's nice and clean up there. 2 bolts. If you feel like they're starting to get rusted, just put some never sees or anti-seize on the threads. It also helps you in the future just being able to take it down so they don't break off. That's a 12mm socket, and we're just going to snug it right up. I'm going to take this bungee cord down so I can now put up the front splash shield. Bring it up. 12mm socket. I'm not going to tighten them right up, I'm just going to snug them. I just want to get them started. There's 4 total on the metal, and then there's the 2 little ones that hold the plastic shield on. And that's why I leave them loose, so you can move the shield to center. I'm going to get my 10mm socket and the 2 other bolts, put that plastic up. Now let's snug the other 4. We're ready to lower it down. I'm going to add my oil. I'm going to put the oil filter, no. I'm going to put the oil funnel that I have right in that fill spot. And it takes 6.5 quarts of 0W20 from the manufacturer. I'm going to let this settle down. Then I'm going to start it, run it till the oil light goes out, which is usually that little funky red thing that looks like a oil spigot. Once it runs out, about a minute, 2 minutes, the light goes out, I mean, I'll shut it down. I'll wait about 5 or 10 minutes for the oil to finally settle in the pan, and I'll take my measurement to make sure it's proper. So let's replace our cap. I'm just going to make sure there's no debris on there. Sand or anything. There we go. Now I can start it and let it sit. So now I'm going to check my oil. Like I said before, the dipstick for the oil is in front of the passenger side of the engine right here, from the airbox. I'm going to Take the stick out, I'm going to wipe it clean, and I'm going to put it in the tube. Bring it right up. Let's check that reading. It's so clean you can hardly see it. You want it to be between the top notch in the middle. Right in there. After it's settled for a good 10 minutes is where you want it to be. Check it always when it's cold to get the proper reading, and you should be all set.